Welcome back to Bannworth Academy News, where we journey into the world of history, archaeology, and art to uncover stories that shape civilization. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Bannworth, and today we're exploring the fascinating intersection of faith, culture, and artistic expression. My guest today is Dr. Manavpreet Kaur Arora, an art historian specializing in Sikh manuscript painting. Her work focuses on deciphering these manuscripts within a rich religious and cultural context, with particular emphasis on syncretism of Sikh faith and its expression through art. She is a postdoctoral fellow with the Indian Council of Historical Research, and she currently teaches at the Indian Institute of Heritage, the National School of Drama, and the College of Art in New Delhi. It's an honor to welcome her to our program.
Thank you so much,
Dr. Arora.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine.
We are very excited. She was actually recommended very highly from our previous guest, Professor Sejwal, who is this week's guest. So you will be very excited to meet her because even the academic experts are recommending her. So you'll know this is a very good.
I'm very honored.
So she's coming to us all the way from India, and let's go ahead and get started. So let's see, what sparked your interest in the Sikh manuscript paintings and religious symbolism within them?
See, I'm a Sikh myself, and I've grown in a family which was very, very liberal, and I've never learnt about my religion or what it is all about until I did my master's. And when I started doing my master's and my PhD and my postdoctorate, it just went on. I realized what a great faith I belong to, and the way it is being understood and the way it is being propagated today isn't really the right way, because it is leading to a lot of fanaticism, which is exactly why I got into doing the research work, because I wanted to put the facts right, based on historical data, based on primary sources, and making sure that the essence of the faith of the gurus, whatever they've taught us, it remains what it originally was.
Yeah, the authentic version. Well, yes. Then can you tell us about your academic journey? So what led you up to wanting to do postdoctoral research in this field?
I was very fortunate to have a teacher who sparked my interest in art history. So, in fact, I did my BA first and did my Bachelor of Fine Arts later. So, I've done my double BA.
Oh, wow.
So, while I was doing my Bachelor of Fine Arts, we had this subject called art history. And there I had my wonderful teacher who sparked my interest in history. And so I went for MA in art history. And when I did my final dissertation and thesis, then my guide suggested that I take up something that belongs to my own culture, because that is going to come naturally to me. So very fortunately, I was able to lay my hands on to an original manuscript in the manuscript section of the National Museum.
Wow.
It belonged from 1839, so I got it photographed and did iconographic and analytical study on, the paintings of the Adi Granth. So that's really how I got going into it. And then I realized that after doing my master's, there's much to learn. So I did my PhD in, again, art history, continuing the same topic, taking it ahead, and doing aesthetic and iconographic analysis of that particular granth, that particular manuscript. So with that, I realized that there is so much, again, to my faith, the idea of the syncretism that I talked about. And there's so much that I believe that I can help others to understand about what this faith really means. So the word Sikh is actually coming from the root word Sikhya or Shiksha, which means to learn. So we are all born to learn, and first lesson that we all must learn is that of humanity for each other, which is so relevant even today in no matter what context we talk about.
That's right, it is. Your fellow person. Well, what's the most surprising or transformative moment you had studying the Sikh art?
I was surprised that, I was initially under the impression that the Sikh faith is about the 10 gurus only. But that's not true. The Sikh faith, in fact, the Holy Granth, the Guru Granth Sahib, it includes verses and hymns written by Hindu saints and Muslim saints as well. So
Oh.
that I was very astonished when I found that out, because I was wondering what is exactly that there are so many people who are flocking to the Gurudwaras, and they're not just Sikhs, they are people from
Mhm.
all the faiths. So I realized that the Sikh faith is essentially a very universal faith. It is all encompassing, all accepting, and again, like I said, it promotes the idea of humanity. So I think that is what made me very proud to be a Sikh myself.
It's a beautiful universal message.
Yes, thank you.
Let's see here. It says your postdoctoral research explores the syncretism of Sikh faith and art. Can you explain what, for people who don't know what syncretism is, what does that mean?
Syncretic ideas would essentially mean something that is not distinctly Sikh as it is understood today, that
Mm.
we are a distinct community, we are following a certain set of belief systems. That's not true, because if we go back to when the faith was born, and it was started by Guru Nanak in 1469. So he basically, like I said, it has verses of the Hindu saints, it has verses by the Muslim Sheikh Farid, for instance.
Mm.
So when it started with Guru Nanak, he had two constant companions. One was a Hindu and another was a Muslim.
Oh, well,
So
that
he
makes sense then.
yes. So he traveled the world. He talked about humanity. He talked about equality. He talked about benefit of all, abolishing of the caste system, of the social evils, of not believing in superstitions. There were so many things. So it was
Mm.
essentially a faith which was meant for the benefit of the society as a whole. And when I
Mm.
talk about syncretism, I essentially mean that, the Sikh gurus are not talking of something that is Sikh as such, but it is something that encompasses all the religions, the
Mm.
teachings of all the religions. So that is what my postdoctoral is all about.
That's excellent. So it's very, again, universal. It is a message that everyone can hear. It can be taught in every country. All the cultures can
Yes,
take
yes.
benefits away from your studying what you're learning, and the deeper, true meaning of the Sikh religion. It says how have religious and cultural contexts shaped the evolution of Sikh manuscript painting?
Uh, this, in fact, is a very interesting question, because what happens after the fifth guru is you have the Mughals ruling in India.
Mm.
And the relations between the Sikh gurus and the Mughals were very uh, amicable till that time. But after that, there were differences of opinion, because of which there was oppression, then there were atrocities.
Oh,
So the political context completely changed, and the gurus had to pick up the sword. And the
wow.
sword was only to, again, protect the country, to protect the people from the fanaticism that the Mughals were spreading,
Yeah, I
and faith,
know.
and forced conversions to Islamic faith, so to say.
I'm I'm going to say something ridiculous, and I'm not sure how true it is. Okay, ready for it? In
Sure.
American movie culture, okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the Sikh practitioners are like expert swordsmen. Like,
Yeah.
is that true? And not just in the movies, right? That's like the context of
No.
that. They're experts, and they are just like one of them takes down an army. Like that's how it's portrayed in America.
That
Is it
is
the
very,
same?
yes, that's very true, because the gurus have taught us to keep a double-edged sword that is known as Miri and Piri. One is the spiritual authority, another is the temporal authority. So, picking up the sword for the protection of people, not for killing others
Right.
unnecessarily, but for protection of self. That is something, again, standing up for themselves, standing up for the benefit of the society. This is what they've proposed. And they've also proposed another interesting thing, is not living the life of a recluse, but to take a middle path, be in this world, be detached at the same time, and, do service to the mankind.
Well,
So I
legendary.
myself, I myself felt so impressed with my faith until I knew about it. So I
It's
posted.
even, well, I mean, in America, there it's well represented with like the movies. They're always like in the movies we have around here. It's like there's a Sikh swordsman somewhere, and he comes out as the lone man who saves the day and stuff like that. So it's very, very cool. How does art function as a vessel for preserving the Sikh religious identity across generations? not just movies in America, but actual art. Well, I guess movies in America are art too, but how does it preserve it within the
Now,
art that you study?
okay, but this I think will take a longer discussion, but very briefly, if I speak to
Whatever
you.
you want.
When we look at early Sikh art, that is very syncretic in the sense that, the manuscripts have paintings of the Hindu gods and goddesses. They have paintings of the Sikh gurus. But eventually, when we move to the 19th century, after, of course, we talk about the rise of the Sikh Empire, then the demise of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. After that, things start changing after 1839, after the demise of Maharaja.
Wow.
British, of course, have established themselves in India by that time, and politically things have changed. So what happens is that art also starts propagating the sacrifices of the gurus, and they become separate. They're looking for a separate identity for themselves. They don't want to be called as Hindus, even though
Right.
the roots of the Sikh faith are coming from the Hindu religion. They deny that, and they look for something that is very, very distinct. So when
Wow.
we say that the Sikh art is what we call as Sikh art, the meaning of Sikh art has changed from the 18th to the 20th century. And in contemporary times also, when you look at artists who are rendering the Sikh gurus, it's very surprising. None of them really represents the Hindu saints and the Muslim saints whose verses have been enshrined in the Holy Granth. You know,
Wow.
it's very surprising. So I think art, we always say that it is a reflection of the society, but in the case of Sikh art, I
Yeah.
think patronage has been one very important factor in the way it has been visualized and the way it has been propagated. So it won't really be a vessel for the culture as such,
Right.
but the changing essence, of course, we can say.
Yeah, so you can follow kind of the changes in the art to model what's going on in India in a way, but
Yes.
it's more of like instead of it being like the literal past, like how you said has the roots in both Hindu and Islam, it is more of like the ideal version of what they would have liked to be known as in
Yes.
it being Sikh only. So got it. But you can kind of follow the historical timeline of, British occupations and stuff like that, following the art as well, and the downfall of the Maharaja. That's very, very interesting. And I
See,
think that's probably true about a lot of cultures where they definitely, I would say, ancient Egypt does an idealized version of themselves. So that's very interesting that you say. How far back does the Sikh religion go? When did it, what
mid
year?
mid 15th century, 1469 somewhere.
Okay.
So I
Oh,
think the trajectory that the faith takes, in terms of when you look at it in the political context, the cultural context, the economic context, and even the technology. You earlier had hand painted manuscripts, then you had printed versions. So the kind of woodcut illustrations that would come up, they would of course not include. In fact, now the Sikhs don't even worship the Sikh gurus in image form. They
mm.
worship only the word. That is, the sacred word is considered to be the ultimate guru, which is the Shabad guru, as they say.
I think the 15th century, right, is when Gutenberg made the printing press. So how
Yes.
much time was there handwritten manuscripts, and then if it's starting right around the 1400s as well, how much time was there handwritten to where they converted over to printed?
I think till the time of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, 1839, we have
Oh, that's a good
handwritten.
run.
Yes, even though during the time of Jahangir, that is 16th, 17th century, when we talk about, we had the printed Bibles coming to India. But when it comes to Sikh faith, in fact, when you also
Yeah.
talk about Hindu manuscripts, they are all handwritten. So
Oh,
we have a good amount of
yeah, a good
handwritten.
400 years.
Yes.
That's excellent. Are there any, so talking about, because definitely there are some in like British where there's like weird rabbits and stuff like that in the hand drawn manuscripts. Are there any reoccurring symbols or motifs that you can see that are particularly in Sikh manuscript art that the average viewer might not recognize, but it really does, once you know it, carry a deeper meaning?
I think one symbol that they do recognize, not that they don't, is the symbol of Ek Onkar. Ek Onkar means that God is one, the divine, the supreme being is one. So Ek is one, and Onkar, if I look back at where the word Onkar is coming from, you go back to Om, which is a Hindu symbol.
The sound. Yeah. The three. It looks like a three.
Yeah, it looks like a three. So Ek Onkar, the three, it goes above the horizontal line. So this is of course a difference of the script. You have the Gurmukhi script for the Sikhs, but then essentially, Onkar was visually represented with the help of a trinity. You have Brahma, you have Vishnu, and you have Mahesh or Shiva. So that is how it was represented in the earlier manuscripts, where the Onkar would be filled with these deities, illustrations of these deities. What the Sikhs did was they had this symbol of Onkar, and then they put Ik in front. Ik means one. So wanted to say that, all these three are actually one. And not actually, all these three are not one, but it is essentially the entire manifestation or entire world of name and form, which is one. So Ekankar is not really the name or a symbol which would encompass any particular, say, identity as such, but then it is essentially the concept of the divine, of how to represent the divine.
So this is Ekankar is specifically Sikh. It is not in Hindi. It's not going to be in Islam. Or no. It is, it. So if you saw it a mile off, you'd say, I know where this comes from.
Yes.
That's very good then for the students to know that. Now, we briefly got into this when we were talking about British occupation, but how have political or historical events influenced themes found in the Sikh art?
Politically, like I told you, you had the Mughals, then you had, of course, the rise of the Sikh Empire, then you had, of course, the British. So politically, we've just discussed this a little bit. Apart from that, I think when we talk about what happens after the demise of the Maharaja, you have these movements, you have these institutions which start coming up that talk about, the preservation of the Sikh identity in its purest form. So you have the Singh Sabha movement, which is a very important movement that happens, that resolves this question for the people as to who are Sikhs. If they are not Hindus, if they are not, somebody, they're not belonging to any other culture, then who are they? So then you also, of course, with the 10th Guru, you have something called the Khalsa. Khalsa means the pure ones. So that is a kind of a baptism that happens in the Sikh religion, where you have...
So it's a religious rite?
Yes, it is a kind of a religious baptism where you have the 5 identification marks to say that somebody is a Khalsa. So, things like these started happening. Then there was a Rehat Maryada, which was written, that is, code of conduct for the Sikhs. And then there were institutions to promote and protect the identity of the Sikhs. A lot of literature started coming. One of the major contributions of the academicians has been the translation of the Guru Granth Sahib, the holy book of the Sikhs, from the Gurmukhi script to English language, because that helped in propagation of the faith.
Oh, wow. Let's see then. So talking about how you said translated, could you walk us through the process of deciphering a Sikh manuscript from both a linguistic or an artistic standpoint?
See, deciphering the script, of course, requires, learning the script itself.
Right.
But then when we look at the structure of the manuscript, it is very interesting that it is arranged in different compositions. You have different prayers, like you have the Japji Sahib, the Jap Sahib, the Kirtan Sohela, the Rehras. These are prayers which are meant for different times of the day. Then there is Bavan Akhri, that is what are the 52 alphabets. Or there is Barama. Barama is the 12 months of the year. So there are compositions like these. But very interestingly, the entire Granth, the entire corpus of the hymns has been arranged in musical modes. That is the Rag and Ragini. Yes, with the fifth guru, this tradition of using the rag and raganis or the musical modes was always there. So whenever you go to the gurdwara, you have this kirtan, if you know, the music being sung or the praises being not really chanted, but then
Yeah.
sung in the praise of the divine.
Oh,
So this,
wow.
yeah, so the entire granth, so if you look at the index, it is going to be arranged as per the ragas and the raganis,
Hmm.
and then within those rags and raginis you have the compositions arranged
Oh,
based
that's
on the
beautiful.
themes. Yes.
All right, I'm going to ask you one more question before we
Sure.
take a short break.
Yeah.
Um, what is the biggest challenges in preserving these manuscripts for future generations?
Oh, that's a very valid question, I must say, because there are very rare manuscripts now which have these illustrations of Hindu gods and goddesses, because the Sikh faith today does not really consider them to be entirely Sikh, and they feel that it is a spurious content, and then
Oh,
they feel that it is not authentic, or they feel there are recensions to it. Of course, there are other challenges, politically. Like the brother of the guru also started a lineage for himself, so they also started with different manuscripts. So there's a lot of controversy which is going on. But then one of the biggest challenges, that a lot of these manuscripts were burnt.
oh.
uh,
And that happens a lot in history, I feel
yes,
like.
because they didn't want to have compositions which were incorrect, or because they did not want. Now, of course, the printed
Mhm.
versions are standardized, but then the handwritten manuscripts, very few are known, and those which are in private collections only have access to, scholars who would get their
Yeah.
hands on it. So
So
that's
is
one.
there any like Sikh library that has a range of an official library that has a range of all the different perspective manuscripts? Or does something like that exist? Or maybe that's something you and I should get working on so we can make it available to the world.
There are libraries, but I wouldn't again see again what do you call Sikh here. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're wanting to understand the meaning of Ek Onkar, you can't do it without understanding Onkar. So you need to have books which explain you
Yeah.
the Hindu faith as well. In fact, in my postdoctoral research, you would be very surprised that I have come across instances, analogies, terminologies, nomenclatures where the Rig Ved is
Yeah.
very similar to the Guru Granth Sahib. That is the Sikh faith,
Mm.
and the first text of the Hindus, the Rig Ved. They have similar verses. There are Upanishads, that is the
Yeah. Yeah.
discourses of the Vedas. You have the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. You have the Manduka Upanishad. Again, the analogies are the same, examples are the same, the nomenclatures are the same. Why is it the same? Because I realized that the gurus, they themselves have grown up in a Hindu culture.
Mm. That's wise.
So the way they wanted to propagate the faith to the people, again by saying, of course, that but how do you explain the concept of God to people who are illiterate? It is only through the literate word or what they are known to, when they
Hmm.
do. So there's a reference of a lot of Hindu gods and goddesses. The names are mentioned in the hymns, whether it is Ram, whether it is Krishna, whether it is Shiva, but the illustrations are not there, so that is a tragedy.
Oh, right. That would be really something. And in a digital age, because I know when you're working on your doctorate, you said you got scans. We should really see if we can get some sort of call to action that people who have things in private worship allow the museum to like borrow it for a month so it can be scanned and add to a database and they can keep it. I know that I don't know how close you live to um Professor Seshwal, but she said she was really moved to her field of study because she went to a museum that had a 3D, like a holographic display, and it was stuff we talked. Wouldn't it be cool if everybody who had stuff in private collection allowed it to be 3D modeled so it could be in the
Ah,
hologram? We need to do
Now,
that with the writings too.
here you have the Punjab Digital Library. It has done immense work by digitizing a lot of manuscripts.
Mhm.
Then there is, of course, by Veer Singh Sadan, that has a lot of collection of good books on the Sikhs. There is, the library in Amritsar, the Khalsa College in Amritsar. That has a wonderful library with a lot of books. Again, those which are out of print, also some of them you would just lay your hands on there. So there is no dearth of books as such.
Yeah.
They have a collection of manuscripts as well. Patiala University has a collection of some manuscripts and a lot of wonderful
Are they
written work.
available to the public online to
Yes,
see?
yes, 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 they're available.
That's
So,
wonderful.
there are people, there are academicians, scholars, there are people who are concerned with the preservation of the faith, but understanding it in the right essence is still what is
Mm,
lacking, I feel, today.
that's true. That's a good point. Well, let's take a short break. We're having a great time speaking with Dr. Arora. You can see her expertise in syncretism of the Sikh religion with the manuscripts and the writing. And we're learning so much about how sometimes culture can be read through this, and sometimes it's a little different. So it's very good to get this minutiae discovered for us and interpreted for us by Dr. Arora. So we'll be back in the flash. We'll see you very soon. Hello, welcome back to Bannworth Academy Ancient News. This is Dr. Tiffany Bannworth, and I'm here with Dr. Arora. She is an art historian and a Sikh synchronism expert. I'm telling you, she's an expert, and she's just been explaining everything to us and how what you may have heard might not be accurate to the actual intention of the Sikh religion. So pay attention to her work and her research, because if you really want a clear understanding of the actual intentions of the Sikh tradition, she's the doctor to watch for. So let's get right back into our interview.
Thank you,
Let
ma'am.
me ask you this question. We just love having you here. We're talking about how, because she knows Professor Sejwal, we're talking about maybe we'll do another interview India side, and we'll both be in the same room instead of in a virtual room. Lots of fun. I'm learning, like we said, I'm learning. I ask the questions I want to know the answers to, so I'm like learning from you as well. Let's see here. How has Sikh art been received or interpreted outside of India, particularly in Western art historical circles?
Again, this is a very interesting question, and I have come across art historians, especially Dr. Sher Singh. He's done his doctorate from outside. I don't exactly remember, London or US somewhere, but he's not from India. And his approach towards the Sikh religion is very, very liberal. He
Oh.
does not deny that we belong to the Hindu roots. He also does not deny that today we have a Sikh distinct identity. So it's very factual. It is perceived in a more kaleidoscopic manner, rather than restricting oneself to only one perspective.
Is he also a Sikh practitioner, or is that just the area of his study?
Well, I think he's a Sikh himself, because as the name suggests, he's Dr. Sher Singh.
Oh, I'm not just making sure. You never know. You never know. So that's interesting. So he
No,
is
but
as a
I would. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I would like
no.
to say that for somebody who's truly a Sikh, he has really learnt the right essence of what every religion is trying to communicate to people. So religion is for the people, for them to understand. So it doesn't matter what route you take. Ultimately, we all have to reach the same destination. So anybody who understands any religion in the right sense, I think, is on the right track.
That's pretty good. So he's doing hopefully he sees this and he knows he's got your mark of approval. We'll tag him in it. Start that. What would you say, which single manuscript or piece of art has had the most profound impact on you personally?
I think the one that I was working on in my master's dissertation, and the one which I took forward for my PhD, it's manuscript in the manuscript department collection of the National Museum in Delhi. It has a colophon entry that mentions that it belongs to 1839. It is patronized by somebody called Sodhi Ban Singh, but that guy is not specifically from the Sikh tradition as such. I mean, he's supposed to be Dr. Jeevan Singh Deol calls him a Meena in the sense that he belongs to a lineage other than the Gurus. But when I look at the manuscript and I saw the paintings, I think that's when I realized that the artists have not really followed anything else except a text image coordination, because if they're reading about Ram and if they're reading about Vishnu, then that is exactly what they're illustrating. So the manuscript has it's as huge as I'm sure our table is. It is that huge, and brilliantly illuminated and illustrated with full-size folios of, it has representation of the Hindu deities, it has representation of the gurus. It also has a representation of the Hindu and the Muslim saints, one or two illustrations dispersed here and there, and some illuminations which are very, very beautiful, very impressive.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is interesting that it has the three, because normally when they talk about Islam being in a clump, they clump it with the Abrahamic religions instead. So it's interesting to see that in different parts of the world, it is part of a different grouping of religion. What message or feeling do you hope that viewers carry with them after seeing a Sikh manuscript for the first time?
I believe that they should understand that we are all the same. I think the first folio, which is very beautifully illuminated with Ek Onkar, and it has the trinity of the Hindu gods, and yet it has the Ik or the one illuminated along with it. Basically, metamorphizes the message into a very compact symbol that we are all one, essentially. So no matter what religion we belong to, what culture, what geography, wherever we are, whoever we are all essentially the same souls on journeys towards the same destination. Yeah.
Humankind.
Yes.
And that's interesting because you also told us earlier, what did you say? It's the Ekar? Ankar? What do you call
it? Ik Onkar.
Ik Onkar, that we now know from a mile out that is a Sikh manuscript. See, we're learning here. We're learning.
Another symbol that is very well recognized is that of Khanda. Khanda is a double-edged sword set within a circle.
So I remember that.
Yeah.
That's very particular in American culture. We would recognize that.
Yeah.
Well, looking forward, what projects, I know you're a postdoctoral fellow, but looking for what projects or research topics are you most excited to explore next, or what can we look forward to seeing coming from you?
I've already submitted my postdoctorate for its final review to my guide.
Yay!
I am on to my next project, started working for it. It is a manuscript called the Dasam Granth. Dasam Granth means the 10th Granth, or the 10th manuscript. Now, it is very debatable and it is very controversial because some people believe that it is not written by the 10th Guru. Again, it's a Sikh manuscript.
Yeah.
But again, it is illustrated and illuminated with, you wouldn't believe, 24 incarnations of Vishnu. So I am very excited about understanding how this beautiful amalgamation of the Sikh and the Hindus and, everything, how is it all coming together? Because I think I understand the essence of my faith. And if I'm able to bring across this message to the people in the world that we're all the same, and we've begun with Sikh. So Sikh faith is not essentially a different religion. It's a pathway of humanity. I'd rather not call it a religion also, but it's a pathway of humanity. So if
they say that about Buddhism too, Buddhism's not a religion, whereas it's a pathway. Yeah.
Yes. So respecting others, their the way they follow their religion, or whoever is doing whatever, we are all essentially the same. So I mean, as an art historian myself, through analysis of art, through understanding and bridging art and literature, I think my aim in life is to bring across this message to people that we must all practice humanity for a better world.
So I have an interesting question based on what you just said. Well, I don't know, it's interesting to me, which I'd be interested in your response. So if Sikh is a tradition that you follow and not a religion, and the initial creator, I would say, of Sikh religion had two companions that were
Yes.
Islamic and Hindu.
Hindu. Yes.
Would you be able to be a Hindu religion Sikh practitioner or a Muslim who is Muslim religion who practices the Sikh tradition? Is it possible to be both?
Uh,
Or is it not
there
as
is there's one thing that I've been very careful with is that I do not wish to hurt the sentiments of anyone,
yeah,
especially the religious sentiments. But then I do see a lot of similarities of thought, of practice. Say, for instance, in the Islamic faith, you pray 5 times a day. And in the Sikh faith, too, what you have is 5 daily prayers. So,
yeah.
and for somebody who doesn't really know much about architecture, would mistake a gurdwara for a mosque, because they essentially look the same, with the same dome, with the ivan, the structure. It essentially is the same. The motifs are the same. The basic structure is the same. Of course, the symbolism of the mosque is very different. The ornamentation is different.
Unique
in terms
to
of,
it.
say,
Yeah.
calligraphy is different. The message that they're spreading is different. But yes, there are some lines of thought where, again, like I said, I do not wish to hurt the sentiments of the people by saying that they are the same. But I do see similarities. I mean, from a novice's eyes, let's say, if I try to look at every religion from the same point of view, and if I have to, as a human being, try to pick one, I do not know which one, because they're all leading me to the same destination.
Right.
Again.
But oftentimes, in general, you don't see people following a dual path. You don't see somebody who's Islamic.
No.
Right? Yeah, they usually choose one of the. Yeah, that's why I was just wondering, because sometimes I know a few people who are Jewish who also practice Buddhism, and so I wondered if it was like the same type of concept, So I thought I'd ask.
See, again, when we're talking about Buddhism preaches the middle path.
Yeah.
The Sikh religion also preaches the middle path. So there are many. I mean, of course, there's a lifetime of research which is required to understand this interfaith dialogue that is happening in all the religions, and make a comparative study and see where they're all melting together.
Yeah.
So I think in today's world, what we need is one path,
common
and that
ground.
is the path, yes, a common ground, or let us say the idea of humanity that should be our utmost priority, rather than getting
Division.
into the nuances of each religion and making segregations as to this is Sikh and this is Hindu and this is Islam.
Yeah, especially as and it's particularly vital, and as you've explained how Sikh's origin is. So it's very, very good information you've provided with us today. I'm very happy that you were our guest, and I have learned a ton from you, a ton of things that I can follow up and study even more. So thank you again. That's all of our questions for today. So Dr. Arora, thank you for sharing it. You are brilliant.
Thank you.
We thank you for your insights on syncretism and the Sikh faith and its expression in art. Your work reminds us that these manuscripts are not just illustrations, but living treasures of history and culture that can help us find that common ground, the middle path, as you've spoken of. And that kind of, as we say on the show, that kind of knowledge truly belongs in a museum. So as to our viewers, thank you for joining us on this journey for another episode of Bannworth Academy Ancient News. It's going to be available on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And at one point in our life, I'm going to put it on TikTok. We're working on it. So be sure to follow us there and continue the adventure. At Bannworth Academy, we believe that education is an expedition of discovery. As I always say, I have to travel and I will travel because the world is full of stories awaiting to be unearthed. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep the spirit of discovery alive. So long.
Thank you.